and then tell us a little bit about yourself and your business.
About the last part, but you said talk about what's the first one? Was it the
So a
someone would say about me? Oh, fun
fun,
thing.
fun,
Okay.
fun, unexpected fact about you that no one would guess.
So I like to have fun, but I think one of the fun facts about me is that, and people would know me for, is that I'm very charismatic and I'm spontaneous. So I like to do things last minute. I think it's because I like to be under pressure. I perform really well under pressure. And so one of the fun things I like to do is golf, which is a little frustrating sometimes. I think Paul will tell you. I've been out golfing with Paul, and I'm a terrible golfer. So that's fun. But a little bit about me is that I am a CEO, executive, public servant, whatever you want to call it, in telemedicine or healthcare technology. Prior to that, I was in the military for 21 years, worked out of the Pentagon and White House for a long, long time. Owned three companies, very successful companies, kind of bloomed at the right time. I'm always looking for growth. I'm always looking for expansion. Currently, right now, I have Teledactyl, which is a healthcare tech company that actually connects systems in the background, and it makes systems talk to one another, especially in the EMR world. During COVID, we built a system that actually does the notification process and reporting to the state. And now we're actually have a partnership with Clear, where we're going to be doing verification of vaccinations as soon as the federal government approves that piece so that people can travel. I like riding motorcycle. But anyway, that's what I kind of do. I've been doing this Teledactyl thing for about 3 years. Before Teledactyl, I owned Home Healthcare Agency. And before that, I owned urgent care centers across Maryland. Then before that, that was the military part. So that's me in a nutshell.
All right. Thank you for that. Appreciate that, Alan. Sounds like quite an experience for you. So unfortunately,
hey guys, one of the tenets that is, I'm not going to record the going forward session, but I did want to record a little bit of this so it'll help me recruit a few more CEOs that I'm looking for. Does anybody have a problem with that?
No.
Okay, and I'll edit it so but I just started recording and I got your introduction, Alan. Nobody else's, unfortunately. It just dawned on me. So thank you.
Well, you actually know me.
All right. So let's move along. We've done the member introductions. So let's start about, this is a special inauguration mastermind, but let me talk about the normal structure of the mastermind when we meet monthly. So first, we're going to share wins, go around in a circle, spend a couple minutes just sharing wins, because oftentimes if we do not celebrate ourselves, nobody else will. So it's a great practice to say, like, what am I psyched about since the last time we spoke, and just share those wins and acknowledge each other. So then we're going to go into hot seats. This is where you're going to bring your problem or challenges and use the power of mastermind to help you work through it. So the format of those is generally, hey guys, here's my problem. In 1 to 2 minutes, summarize it, and then everyone will kind of be allowed to give feedback, provide ideas, and go from there. So this is like your ability to kind of bring your challenges and see what other people think about it. These can be personal, these can be professional. So remember that everything in here is confidential, and we're adhering to that. So this is like as Will Ferrell would say, this is the trust tree, so that you can know that everything in here is confidential. So we're going to be doing the hot seats. Those are going to be about 20 minutes a piece, and we'll do 2 or 3 of those. So, from there, we're going to talk about accountability. So what are you on the hook for next month that you want this group to hold you accountable for. And I'll also keep a document of that, just to keep you guys honest and make sure that we're all tracking. And then there'll be presentations. Sometimes we'll bring in outside folks. Sometimes I'll present on things. I'm going to be doing a quick presentation today about style flexing and 4 personality types, and that's coming up soon. And if you guys have any ideas for good presenters, totally up for it. So throw those out there. With that being said, similar to what Blake was saying, want to figure out a way that this group can give back. So one idea I had for a presenter was the founder of B1G1. It's a really great philanthropic company that empowers business to make micro donations and prove their social good. So it's a great way to do your normal business processes, attach micro donations to them, whether it's emails sent, sales calls that you've had, or any other thing that you kind of track metrics for. And with that, do micro donations to causes you're involved with. So, Paul, we can talk about if it makes sense to bring in the CEO of that company, but that's something that I'm pretty passionate about. So that's kind of the format of the mastermind. So let me open it up real quick for questions, feedback, and anything you guys would find valuable to make sure this makes sense for you.
When you just described a 20-minute hot seat, what does that mean?
So that means that you come to the group with a challenge that you're facing, and you basically say, hey guys, I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z and would love your input on it. So you're in the hot seat. And then you invite feedback, ideas, solutions from the group for a period of time while you're in the hot seat.
Okay.
I'm liking all the hold accountable. I like that part, where I could bring up things that I need to do, and all of us together, we call hold myself accountable, and I could get your opinions. I like that a lot.
I agree. I think that in other relationships I've had that are similar, that was one of the most valuable things, because it's really easy in our roles to get caught in the weeds, and lose track of the big picture and the things that you want to sort of accomplish to make the business move forward.
Yes.
All right. Good. So from there.
Well, I just want to bring up Alan and Terry have very similar philanthropic endeavors. Their give back. Alan, you want to talk about yours, and then we'll do Terry's?
Sure. So I'm actually looking at a couple ways. One is underserved areas getting access to healthcare. That is one of the things that my company and some of the companies that I sit on boards for are very, very passionate about. The other is the Veteran Initiative, homeless vets. I really think that often when people retire from the military, they are no longer they become a number in some of the wheels. And so how do we address that is to be able to get more involved and giving them access also to platforms that has a one-stop shop that allows them, even though they say they have it, they don't really work together well. And we get whether it's veterans or these people in underserved areas that are using systems, if we're able to get them into a program with different touch points, and they age out of the program, they go back to their communities, and they actually help become that message. So there's my passion and my company's passion are in those areas.
That's wonderful.
That's great.
So the factoid about me that Alan might have missed was the skull cap in the freezer for 6 weeks, so my brain could swell out. So I had a traumatic brain injury, and it was to the point where I think it was 3 or 4 times the family got called in to say their goodbyes, that I wouldn't make it. And of course I didn't know any of this till after I was told. And when I was, coming out of the ICU for 6 weeks, they said, he'll be in the acute rehab 6 months to 2 years. And I walked out of that 3 weeks later under my own power. So miracle. And I always wanted to help somebody, help people, and did some praying. And then it was Veterans Day. I get this email from, at the time I was in Northern California Golf Association. It said, hey, would you like to help some veterans? Look at this, Salute Military Golf Association, helping veterans one fairway at a time. And it's for post 9/11 combat wounded was the focus group, and helping those folks, get out, get social, meet some people, teach them a game that they can take, for the lifetime. And for those that already play, teach them to be better. And for those that have to play with the new adaptation, they lost a hand or a leg or something, it's getting them fitted for that and giving them the transformative training to do it that way. So smga.org, that's my calling, to help those veterans in any way possible.
Terry, that's such a beautiful story and such a blessing. The other thing is the mental behavioral health issues that we face, not only in the military as veterans, but in general, just based on this pandemic.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times when you look at what we see normally and the focus not being on it, there's so much redundancy in the system. And so the connections in these backed platforms that I talked about earlier are really to find the redundancy, take it out, and reallocate those funds to behavioral health and mental health. So I think that's going to be an issue we're going to be dealing with for many, many years down the road after the pandemic. So I'm glad to hear your story, and it just kind of cued me into, not that you have any of those issues, but it made me think of that as being a missing segment that affects many, many people, especially because there's a stigma that's associated with it. When you're a man, you don't want people to think that you're not all the way there.
Right.
There's people to suffer. So
yeah, there's great YouTube videos of the SMGA folks that they said they were a day away from shooting themselves, and they met someone who brought them into the SMGA to show them about golf and getting them to work with people and meeting people, and now they're the head greenskeeper at a major private country club in North Carolina. So the stories like that. That's what I want to make stories, right? Help people out and up.
Love it. Looks like we lost Alan there, but hopefully he joins us back shortly.
He's there. He just turned his camera off. He's just going to be in listen mode, which is fine, most likely.
Good. So, Paul, anything else that you want to say before we go into presentation mode?
I apologize, gentlemen. I'm here. I'm at a cigar. My meeting was at a cigar bar, so I don't want to smoke in front of you guys and be rude. But if you guys are okay with it, then I'll leave the camera on. Because
it is fine with me. I'll be a little jealous, maybe, but that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Because I'm like,
it's all good.
It adds color.
Sitting in our office, you're smoking a cigar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully that'll make the cut of the video. All right. So
hopefully we all do it together one day.
That would be amazing.
Indeed. Question, and Paul and I discussed this, but one of the questions is, do you guys want to be able to, and what's the best way to communicate in between sessions to help support each other or meet up for a cigar, whether it's a WhatsApp text group or a text group or, an email list, what ways are the best to help support each other in between sessions? So open that up for your guys' input there.
I would just think share contact info, and if you want to call someone, you can.
Yeah, for group stuff, I probably would lean toward group text. I've been in other groups that tried to create a LinkedIn group, but I don't think people really check it or look at it often enough for that to be effective. That'd be my feedback. I mean, obviously this is a pretty small group. We could all just sort of agree to do it, but
Right.
in larger groups that doesn't seem to work.
I agree
Yeah,
with Blake.
I'm multi-platform, so I'm good with texting.
I agree texting.
Okay, good. So we can get a text chain going, and obviously we don't want it to be spam for anybody. So we'll keep that in mind. So next up, I'm going to be presenting, and I'm going to be talking about style flexing. And let me share my screen. So this is going to be one of the features of the group, is sometimes we'll have presentations, sometimes we'll do it fully hot seats, and we'll take feedback in terms of which you guys like. But let me jump into my presentation. Present and share screen.
Did we lose Terry?
No, I think he's there. I think when they turn the camera off, they sort of get minimized. That's all
Oh,
right.
okay.
We all got to sneeze or something like that every once in a while, right?
Yeah.
While we were waiting on the presentation, that's what I did. I turned the camera off. I have a line blended cigar. So if you once we set this chat up, if you guys would like a sampler pack, I can actually send you a sampler pack of my blend.
It sounds like a plan.
All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Beautiful. So I'm going to make this short and sweet. Why I'm sharing this with you guys is you guys are obviously successful CEOs. You know how to work with people with different styles. And I think some insights in this can help you if you're not familiar with style flexing in these 4 personality types. So it's not about being fake. It's about shifting your approach to be able to reach people. So what we're going to cover today is just an introduction to style flexing. We're going to look at a personality matrix, which covers these 4 personality types. We're going to dive into them, how to connect with them. And the idea is that you can realize what personality type you are, what personality types your team is, and how to flex both at home and at work to better connect with people to get better results. So why this is important, we want to be able to influence and inspire people. And if we don't know what makes them tick, if we don't know the best way to communicate with them, then we're not going to be able to reach as broad of an audience as we want to. And the best leaders out there can access all 4 personality types, read who they're talking to, and be able to adapt to it to create that influence and inspiration that they're looking for. So again, in this quadrant, we're going to help you identify where you are, access the positive gifts of each, and allow you to become a better leader. So this is the matrix here. So you've got controller, analyzer, promoter, and supporter. And you've got these spectrums from more formal to more informal, and then you've got the more dominant types and the more easygoing types. So I'm going to dive into what each one of these are, but notice that the opposite for you is where you get to flex into most. So a controller has the more harder time being a supporter, promoter has a harder time being an analyzer. So when you think about where you get to flex the most, which resonates with you, think about the opposite as well, and we'll come back to that. So the controller, we've got their strengths, their weaknesses, their growth areas, and how to speak to them. So their strengths, they're results oriented, they're direct, great leaders, powerful, they make decisions, and they're dominant. I'm making an assumption that the majority of you guys have a lot of controller in you. And these aren't absolutes. We can be different types in different situations. We can be a controller at work and a supporter at home, vice versa. And you can be dominant one, secondarily another. So for example, I'm an analyzing supporter. So I'm a supporter through and through, and I've got an analyzer in me. with that said, I get to flex into being that promoter and being that controller. So the weaknesses with a controller is they often leave blood in their wake. Their relationships suffer. They like to be right. They like to be the source of idea, and they often can be perceived as insensitive. So if you are a controller, the areas where you get to grow are being more sensitive, listening more, accessing your feelings and love, and just overall being a little bit nicer and softer. And that will allow you to connect with more people. And if you're not a controller and you're speaking to them, you want to speak directly to them. You want to be confident, be clear. In general, controllers are more formal. They also like status symbols. So like nice watches, nice cars, etc. But again, speaking with them, you want to mirror them. And if you're trying to influence them, agree with them. And if you come up with an idea, make it their idea. Don't worry about having your ego and being like, well, that was my idea. Does that make sense, you guys?
Mhm.
Tracking
Yep.
with me? All right. So the supporter, feelings oriented, loving and caring. They're the nurturers. They're great people to have on your team. They put other people first. They're really loyal. Like having supporters on your team are amazing because they keep things running. They make sure everyone's happy. They're easygoing. They go with the flow. The weaknesses are they can be a doormat and they don't stand up for themselves. So if we take a restaurant analogy, a controller or driver is going to be like, I want Chinese. You're either eating with me or I'm eating alone. Take that same Chinese restaurant. The supporter gets their order. It's not what they ordered. They'll be like, oh, that's fine. I'll just deal with it. They don't stand up for themselves. And the driver would be like, take this back. This is not what I ordered. No hesitation. So the supporter has a hard time speaking up for their own needs or thinking that they matter. And so this is really important if you've got supporters on their team to acknowledge that they matter, to not dominate them too much. And your words of praise go such a long way to help with their loyalty and help them feel seen, help them feel like they're mattered. So supporter, their growth areas are their voice, voicing their feelings, voicing their points of view, stepping into their self-confidence, and owning their power. So if you're speaking to them, if you dominate them, they'll shrink. They'll kind of retreat back into a cave, and you'll lose your connection to them. You'll start to lose some of that loyalty. So try not to dominate a supporter because they'll be your biggest fans. Just support them, stroke their heart, acknowledge them, see them, and really encourage them. Tell them that they're doing a good job. And when you've got something to do, they're always curious about why. So if you explain why, that will go a long way to make sure that they can support you if they know the reasons. The promoter, they are relationship driven. They're the flashy guys. If you got a party, you want a promoter to help promote your party. They're the center of attention. They're flamboyant. They've got lots of ideas. They get people pumped up about things. They're outrageous. They're passionate. They're energetic. They like to speak in front of audiences. And they're great idea people. The weaknesses for promoters in general is that they don't finish things. They get easily distracted. They say yes to everything. They've got the shiny object syndrome. And sometimes they can show up as phony because they're so over the top. So the growth areas for promoters are to stay on task, to create specific goals, to follow through, to have that detail, that structure, that organization, to do what they say they're going to do, have that integrity. So when you're talking to a promoter, again, you want to be able to match and mirror them. So that looks like being exciting, being fun, being passionate, and like, this is it, right? And just getting them excited. They don't care about all the details in the spec sheet. They just want to know that this is where they need to be. So lastly, with the analyzer, their strengths are detail, structure, organization, great with numbers, discipline. They set up systems, they problem solve. Weaknesses are they can take a long time to decide. They lack passion. They lack spontaneity. So their growth areas are be passionate, be spontaneous, make decisions quickly. So when you speak to them, you want to make sure you've got all the facts and details. you got to be buttoned up in terms of knowing everything. Give them time and space to decide and slow it down. They want to be able to process everything as they go. So if you're trying to sell to them, slow it down. And then be more visual with them, be logical with them, give them all of the facts. So again, if we're talking about a party, the promoter is going to bring people into the party. The analyzer is going to make sure that everyone has food and drinks and make sure everything is set up. So that's the overview of these different 4 personality types. And again, we can flex into them and be these types in different contexts. First, what we want to do is we want to identify the quadrant that we're most at home in and figure out where we get to flex into most. So as a supporter, I get to be more of a promoter. I get to be bigger. I get to be louder. I get to get you guys most excited about this concept will help change your business, because when you can talk to people, it's absolutely out of control the results you're going to get. So that's me stepping into more promoter right there. And it's that is where your personal room for growth is. And if you're a driver and let's say you're coming home to your partner, stepping into being a supporter, so that is, let's say your partner's talking about a problem, being able to just like listen to them and be vulnerable with them as opposed to trying to solve their problem and just move on, right? So the style flexing is to be able to flex into those different things. So whether that's speaking to an audience, whether it's trying to enroll someone in a sale. I remember an amazing coach that whose program I did. I talked to him like, I don't know if I should do this program or that program. Both my analyzing and supporter, like, am I worthy of this? Does this make sense for me? She's just like, Ben, you're amazing, and this is the thing that you need to do. Here's the reasons why, and I see you. This is going to be great for you. And she just spoke to my analyzer and supporter, had me pegged, and that allowed her to convert the sale with me. So when you're able to flex into that, you'll be able to influence better. And this is another thing, like if you're in breakdown, if things are not going well in your life, if you're an analyzer, try being outrageous. If you're a controller, try being vulnerable. If you're a promoter, try keeping your word. And if you're a supporter, remember I matter. So this is like when things aren't going well, this is what you get to flex into that will most likely help you move the ball forward. So that's it for the presentation today in terms of the personality quadrant. I'll go back to the quadrant and I'll open it up to questions for you guys.
I think for me, my biggest struggle is flexing into that supporter role. I mean, I have a whole team of supporters and they're fantastic. I don't compliment them enough. I don't reward them enough. I don't, and that's one of the things I'm going to ask everybody to hold me accountable for is, rewarding and complimenting my team because they're fantastic. They're awesome supporters. We did the personality profile. I'm a controller, analyzer, just, sharpshooter guy that just pushes forward and leaves a wake of blood behind me. So I need my team to mop up and clean up after me, and they do a great job with that. I mean, Danny's one of my customers. He knows, that my team is fantastic, but I am.
They're amazing.
Thank you, Danny. Yeah, that's my comment.
All right. So question for you, Paul. In terms of accountability, we want to make it specific and measurable. So what do you want to commit to? That's something that we can really peg.
So I rolled out a bonus program for the year, and I just have to put some more promote it more so that everybody sees it, it's front and center. So I got to put together, the slide of saying what the bonuses is and how they can achieve it.
Paul, my 2 cents on that is that, I mean, the money's great, and I do some bonus programs for my guys too, but nothing means more than recognition from you amongst their teammates, like, any sort of thing. You can't imagine how excited my guys got for wearing a special shirt that nobody else could have except for the people who achieved some sort of goal, stuff that really wasn't expensive, just sort of let them stand out amongst their peers.
Like that's a great example, and you're right. Some people are motivated by money, but I think people want to know that they're a part of a team, and that even the person that empties the garbage is important for the whole process of a company. So one of the things that I recommend also, besides the T-shirt thing that does really work, is that you once a month or once a week, I don't know how big the team is to acknowledge them through a card about something that they did that was very well. And it's maybe at your first meeting of the month or whatever, just recognize them and then and just to show appreciation.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
I think that's a great idea. Recognition, it goes a lot farther than monetary value.
And it doesn't mean they don't mind the money and they want. I think it's still a good idea, but
Yeah.
I think if you do that and don't do the other part, it's not going to be nearly as effective.
Well, no, give them the bonus, but also give them the recognition and do the small things too.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I think there's power. So for being a controller, it's tough being vulnerable as well. So if you even set up a meeting where it's like, hey, guys, I'm looking to become a better leader. One of the things that I haven't done well is acknowledge you, and so I want to just take this time to do that. And that could take whatever format you want, but you can also acknowledge that you're working on yourself too. And flexing into that. So that allows you to actually really stretch yourself. And this is where a lot of that growth is stretching into that other areas to allow you to feel what it's like to get out of your comfort zone and flex into that.
Okay.
Cool. Did anything else?
This is a very great tool to use. I fall in like some of these. I'm not really a controller, but I can see myself in the other three. And so I'll give you guys one of my accountability things, probably via text message once I put it together. But I think this is phenomenal, Ben.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate it.
It reminds me of a Seinfeld episode, Do the Opposite, right? Am I the only one old enough to remember that?
I'm young enough. I would fall into the controller aspect. Also, I do promote, I do a little bit of everything, but controller more. And I need to do more appreciation to my employees and everyone in the factory and all the operations. And that's something I need to work on. So I need to be held accountable for appreciation to everyone in what they do for our company.
So how do you guys want to handle accountability? Because, I think, Daniel, you said that, and Paul, you said that. Do you guys want to, I'm thinking about a Google Sheet to track it or within a text message, but want to be able to make sure that we get specifics so that we know if you did it or not. So I guess the question is, are you guys able to come up with your accountability commitments on the spot, or do you need time to grok on them? What's going to be the most helpful way to work this?
Well, I think for me, it's going to depend on which of these. I think we've spoken about a few different accountability commitments to the group.
Right.
One would be sort of things you want to do inside the business, and this is more of a sort of personal growth. I don't think I can come up with this on the spot because I know my weakness is promoter, and because it's my weakness. It just doesn't take much of my mind share up. I'm definitely an analyzer with the other two, controller and supporter, like features sort of less so. Sort of thinking this graph could like function better as like one of those web graphs where everybody has part of it, but where's your weak point? And that it would take me some time to think about that. The other stuff I probably could answer now, as far as the things I want to get done by the next time we meet to take a step forward in the business, plans that I need to follow through on, that sort of thing.
Okay. So any other feedback on the presentation, or do you guys want to move into the accountability portion?
I would just like to have a copy of the spreadsheet, or at least this sheet right here, of your PowerPoint. I think it's a PowerPoint, because I'd like to be very honest with you guys and transparent with you guys. And just like what Blake just said, it's going to take me to sit down and actually think about it, because I really want to grow. So
Yeah, happy to send some slides around in a PDF. Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording so we can speak, freely.